Hello, gay men. Welcome to another episode of Coming Inside Out. I'm your host, Brian James, along with my co host, Mark Dembo.
Hey, Brian. Good to see
Hey,
you. How
Mark.
are you
Good to see
today?
you too. I'm excited. We have a guest on today.
I know we're going to jump right into this. We are really, really excited. Joining us today, we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about something that a lot of us, especially coming out later in life, were never really taught how to understand, let alone talk about. And we're going to be talking
Yes.
about butt health and anal sex. We're being joined today by Dr. Evan Goldstein. I think everybody's going to really, really learn a lot. So, just a little bit of background. Dr. Evan Goldstein is the leading anal health expert in the United States. He is the founder of Future Method, and he's one of the few surgeons in the world whose practice, Bespoke Surgical, is dedicated to treating and restoring the human butt. He holds a perennial spot on the list of top doctors for the New York metro area, and Crane's New York Business listed him as one of their notable LGBTQ plus leaders and executives. Dr. Goldstein's been featured in national publications including GQ, Well and Good, Men's Health, Cosmopolitan, New York Magazine, Forbes, Fast Company, Out, and Shape. He's a popular podcast guest because be on our podcast now. And he's in demand as a speaker for both medical and sex positive industries. His first book, But Seriously, The Definitive Guide to Anal Health, Pleasure, and Everything in Between, was published in May 2024. And we're pleased to be joined by Dr. Evan Goldstein.
Welcome.
Well, Evan, it is great to have you here with us today. We're so thrilled you're able to join us.
Yes.
No, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for thinking of me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we just kind of, jump in here? It'd be really interesting to get a little bit of background. We obviously shared your bio, but what got you into this kind of work?
Yeah, I constantly keep asking myself the same fucking thing, honestly. But similar to kind of listening to everyone's stories and the listener stories, I was married to a woman. I came out later in life. I was doing heart surgery at that time, and I was miserable. I was miserable in so many different facets of my life. And through that, I met Andy, my current partner. We've been together for 20 years. We have two kids together through surrogacy. They're almost 15 years old. And during all of this, I started to not only reevaluate who I was, but I also was reevaluating what I really wanted to do. And it was definitely not heart surgery. At that time, lots of shifts were happening in the medical surgical world, and I decided to kind of just go back to where I was training and do general surgery. And as I was doing that, I was engaging or trying to engage in anal play with my partner. And I started to realize that, hold on a second, like, it doesn't just shove it in, that model of just shove it in, that doesn't work. And so I started to kind of myself ask questions. Well, where do people go? Who's doing these things? And I couldn't give a shit if I fix your heart, your ass, your tits, your face, whatever. The sexual world of our space is so important
Yeah.
that I realized that it was an empty space, that nobody was delivering the care that I felt was required. And so that was really the birth of Bespoke Surgical, which was my practice. We started about 15 years ago here in New York. We're right off Union Square, and it started to really fill the void of not only the gay community, but everyone that has an ass. But there's lots of intricacies that fall into the gay space. And how do we provide a space that's non-judgmental, no taboo, no stigma, just really getting to the root of allowing people the sexual pleasures that they deserve, including myself. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. It reminds me, as you were saying, you don't just stick it in for everybody, which is probably most everybody listening or watching, having seen Heated Rivalry. I know there was a lot of
Yes.
comments about that. It's like, wait a minute, you don't just.
Totally, totally, totally. Believe me, my DMs were fucking like
Yeah,
lit
right.
up of after Heated Rivalry. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about with
Yeah.
that show.
It's so interesting because coming from a space where I came out much later in life, some of my best friends also coming out later in life. One of my buddies was getting into a relationship and going to start to bottom for the first time. And here we are in our late 50s, and we're both Googling and watching YouTubes on douching and the kind of stuff that you need to do to clean up. And it was like in our 50s, trying to figure that out for the first time, not having somebody walk us through that at an earlier age. So, yeah, we appreciate everything that you bring to the show for us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I think that that was the impetus of not only my practice, but my book. I wrote a book about a year and a half ago called But Seriously, and it goes into all the different facets of, just from the mental component of internalized homophobia and growing up during the AIDS crisis and specifically, shunned from a bottoming perspective, and how do we understand anatomy and functionality? And you're right. I mean, I think that I see a lot of kids coming to me that are new into the anal space, 17, 18, 19 years old. And then I see a lot of people in our age group, the 40s, 50s, and 60s that are, either the relevancy of their relationship change. They were a top in one and they wound up kind of opening up the world or leaving that relationship and starting another. Or as we see people aging with erectile dysfunction, you start to kind of have issues on the erection side, where now, in order to stay relevant in the gay space, many people go towards bottoming. And I think that what you guys are doing is so great, because the reality is how do we educate all comers, literally, pun intended, so that they understand the right ways to engage. And I'm sure we'll dive deeper into that.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So when people are coming to your practice, what is the impetus? Are they coming for education? Is it becoming because they have an issue? What what's kind of
Yeah,
that
I
driving
think it's a
factor?
combination. I think most people coming in because they have an issue or they've done kind of all of the approaches that I'm sure we'll talk about with anal dilation and stretching and trying to understand their anatomy, and it's not easy going for them. So the number one reason why people come in is what's called anal tears, which are called fissures or skin tags or hemorrhoids, or their muscle is too tight, or mentally they feel like they can relax, but physically and functionally they can't. So a lot of it is what, even though I hate the term pathology, right? We'll just say kind of issue related things. And then there are people that are like, just check my ass, make sure everything is cool, and can you give me education in terms of I'm new to this? What type of pelvis do I have? We'll talk about kind of there's three different assholes in the world. Which asshole are you, is important to know, because it will allow you to understand what you can and can't do. And so all of these types of things come through the office. It's just a matter of having a safe space to explore that and discuss it, and then allow people to give the homework and the understanding of what's
Yeah.
next in the game.
All
So
right.
I just
Well, let's jump into that. The three different types of
I was gonna
assholes.
say I
I'm
wanted to pick up on
curious.
that because people have always told me I'm an asshole. So
Yeah,
I
well,
want to
which
know
type of that?
which
Yeah.
type am I?
Yeah. So I think take a step back a little bit just so that all the listeners understand. The ask, even though we're going to say, and I'm going to talk a lot of things, the reality is it's not overtly very complicated. It's thinking along the lines of physical, what's happening locally at the ass, then it's not only psychological but neurological. So what's happening at the brain, your perception of stigma, taboo, holy fuck, someone's going to fuck me and it's going to be painful,
Mm.
versus neurologically, like how is your brain, like I want to relax my ass, does that really happen? But let's talk about the physical first. There's muscle and there's skin. That's it. So there's three sets of muscles. And if the listeners are squeezing your asshole right now, squeeze, squeeze, what you're doing is you're squeezing the first two. Those are called the external or superficial sphincters. And those are voluntary. I can close them, I can open them. The third one, which is involuntary, that's the thickest muscle. That's called the internal sphincter. That's the one where, let's say I'm trying to top you and you're like, I'm relaxed, and I'm like, I can't get my dick in your ass. That's because that third muscle doesn't or isn't relaxing
Mm,
fully. And so all three of these muscles are together but independent from a functionality perspective. So when I talk to you about the different types of pelvises, you can understand that type 1 pelvis is all three muscles listen to each other, all three muscles are able to open, all three muscles are able to receive, and it's about 30% of the population that's in that group one, which is you could do whatever the fuck you want from the beginning and you have a blessed asshole. Okay, that's group one. Group two is eh, kind of like what my kids do, that 6, 7 thing, kind of like, sometimes it really works and I'm good. Other times it's not. And like it could be a little bit painful, but it's restrictive. And that's, again, about another third of people. And then the last third is in the book we talk about anal nopus is the name because nothing's going in that ass. Those three muscles are just super restrictive and tight. And so when someone says to me, I want to get into anal, I say, okay, well, first off, we really want to understand what type of muscle mechanism you have. So that's what we just spoke of. We also really want to understand your skin. So remember, it's muscle, and then there's skin on top of the muscle. Now, is your skin thick or thin? Is it able to open or not? I always talk about the pizza pie analogy, which is many people come to me in group one with 8 slices of pizza for their asshole, and that's great. Other people come to me with 7 slices or 6 slices. And you could see where I'm going is that like you need 8 slices for really good sex. So some people come and it's not a muscular issue, it's a skin issue that the skin just doesn't open all the way. So when the listeners are kind of thinking, it's like, okay, like, is it a muscle issue? Is it a skin issue? Did I have surgery before? Do I have scar? Do I have extra skin or skin tags or hemorrhoids? Or do I have something that's limiting the expansion of my hole? And that is kind of the thought process. And we'll talk about using anal dilators as the reason to
Yeah.
figure out, like, well, am I group one, two, or three? But I think to kind of understand that that's just the physical side. The mental side is, okay, am I able to tell my body to relax and get it to relax? Some people have this thing called paradoxical motion, which is I'm telling my ass to relax and it actually contracts, and vice versa. And many of people like that, you talk to them about their shitting routines, and you could see that even when they're pooping, they're having a difficult time. A lot of
mm,
people have irritable bowel, or they're not getting complete evacuation of their shit because their ass doesn't work really well. So in the office, when people come and see me, we do a lot of one, I do an evaluation inside and out, squeeze, relax. We also do what's called anal manometry, which our physical therapist Stephen does, where he measures the pressures and we're able to see locally and functionally and mentally how do you relax. So we're able to now really bridge science and sex and kind of come up with an algorithm that makes sense for each individual. Does that make sense?
yes.
Yeah. So with type 1, 2, or 3, is that something that an individual can figure out on their own? Or is it like, hey, you got to come into the office to kind of really figure that out?
Well, I think people that are in New York that really want to get to the bottom, literally, of all of this, I think the best thing is, once a year evaluations, especially if you're bottoming, let's do the right thing, make sure we're not missing any HPV, herpes, any anal cancers, functionality inside and out, a really good look. But that was really the impetus of me starting. Bespoke was the in office, but seriously was to reach people the book
Yeah.
so that they can try, because a lot of people can't come to New York. So one of the things that I saw in all of this was that there wasn't a products company that really understood the bottoming game, and that was what led me and my partners into starting Future Method, which is a brand that bridges everything that I learned in the office to now products that support it. So one of the first products we launched with was appropriate anal dilators. I like glass dilators. They come as a set of four. So, staging one, two, three, and four, obviously four being the biggest. And a lot of people, and whether you use our products or others, I don't care. The mentality of how do I understand my anatomy and the function of that is what is important. So our protocol is usually about a 6 to 8 week protocol of using toys. So it's like, hey, I've never bought them before, or I don't know what the fuck I'm really doing. How do I figure out where I am? And I usually do like Mondays. Today's my usual dilating day. Right before I shower, I'll turn the shower on. I'll stand up. I'll use the small glass toy, lots of lube, and I'll slowly enter the mechanism of those three muscles. So I'll go in, I'll hit that first muscle. I'll then get it to relax. So I won't force anything in. I'll hold it there, three, two, one. I come back out. I re-lubricate the toy. I go back in again. And you'll see it may take you 6, 8, 10 times to fully get all of those muscles to relax. But as you're doing it, I want you to understand like where your first muscle is, where your second muscle, and you'll feel the third, because especially in the male pelvis, it is super restrictive. It's super tight, and the belly of the muscle is quite thick. Once you're fully in, where the entire device goes all the way in, I don't want you coming out anymore, because once you come out, now the muscles are going to close. The goal is, think about a rubber band that we're trying to expand. You have to really work it. When you look at the best bottoms in the world, they're bottoming 2 to 3 times a week. Now, I don't have fucking time to get something up my ass 2 to 3 times a week, but maybe our listeners do. But at least once or twice for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right before I shower, I will do this device where I'm now, once I'm fully in, I'm going in and out 3 to 4 centimeters with the device, counting down like you're going to the gym. Give me 2 sets of 12, 2 sets of 10, because it's a muscle. I always talk about a bicep. Think of one day we're in the gym, we're doing biceps. The next day we're doing triceps to stretch the bicep. When do you ever stretch your asshole? Most people in the world don't. But that's not the right mechanic, because all day the ass is tight. How do we get that to fully relax? And obviously, even in the straight space, I talk about a ton of anal play. Doesn't even need to be a sexual nature, just to reset the tone so that you're sitting correctly, you're doing squats correctly, you're shitting correctly. And then hopefully you'll feel pleasure in what you're doing that you want to then getting to a bottoming space. So with the toys, you're basically testing the waters of the muscle, the skin. How does the lube pick up? Am I using the right lube? I'm a big silicone lube fan for anal
Okay.
play. I really like the glass dilators because it picks up any lube and it stays on there. It's
Mm-hmm.
super easy to clean, and it's weighted. The weight of the glass is so important because it needs to hit those muscles to stretch the muscle and to get those muscles to relax. If you're doing something a little more flimsy, you have to create a lot more pressure. So, I talk about things being not so complicated, but you can understand there's lots going on in this space. So most people will start with just the small dilator for 2 to 3 weeks. It should feel totally safe, totally comfortable, no pain. You may have discomfort as you're starting, but no bleeding, no pain. If you have, then it's make sure you're doing things correctly, make sure that take a week or so off, try it again, see if it happens and the same thing. If it's persistently happening after you finish the small, or let's say you're at the medium and it or the second size and it's still an issue, then yes, DM me or someone in your, in the field somewhere where maybe there's something else that's potentially going on. But most people go from the dilator 1 to 2. Always start with dilator 1. So by 4 to 5 weeks, you're at dilator 3. And you start to see if you're progressing really well, then you are probably a type 1 in that pelvis. If you're somewhat, hey, it's getting better, I feel like I'm a little restrictive, but each time it's getting easier and easier, that's probably a type 3. It's 2. And then if you're like, hey, fuck, this has been an issue from the beginning, then clearly I'm in that type 3. And then that leads us to different stratifications that we could talk about if people don't progress really well.
Wow.
I had no idea.
I know. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Nobody has any idea. And the only reason why I have an idea is because I see 90 people a week where you start to see commonalities,
Yeah.
especially in our gay space. Body habitus, how they approach things, what are they doing? And then you start to see injury. And then you work the other way to say, well, wait a second. Okay, I'll fix your injury, but how do we prevent the injury from happening? And I usually break things up just to help you guys in terms of buckets. Like bucket 1, when someone comes to my office, is like they just need the right education and the right tools, right? They have the right asshole. They're able to do it. They just didn't know that they could do it. And then we teach them and they go off and they have a great bottoming career. Bucket 2 is that, that like, do I need to do things in the office like physical therapy?
Hmm.
Do we need to do anal Botox, which is relaxing that third muscle? So I do a lot of work in the office that allows those muscles to expand. Also, if you have skin that's too thin and you're tearing the skin, not so much the muscle, then what can we do to help with the skin? There's a cone toy that really opens the skin more, that creates more friction in that space, that's really great for toughening the skin and getting people more circumference. Also, there's a device that we use in the office that Michael, our aesthetics nurse, does, which is called the Tempture. And it's basically radio frequency that stimulates collagen in the ass to get it tougher so
Hmm.
that you don't tear in the space. Or bucket 3 of, do I need to do something surgical? Is there hemorrhoid, skin tags? Is there chronic scar? Is the muscle way too tight that I need to cut the muscle because Botox is not going to get you to where you need to be? So I always think along those lines. What can you do at home? What do I have as stuff I can do in the office? Or do I need to do surgery first and then go to bucket 1 after? Does that
Hmm.
kind of help?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, yes.
So let's say if somebody might be the type 3,
Yeah.
kind of what I'm hearing you say is like, hey, there's hope, right? Because you've got
Yes.
a lot of other options that can help get past that.
Totally, 100%. I think that kind of anal nope is group 3 is really more of, okay, can I get them into a better space with the in-office based stuff
Yeah.
first?
Yeah.
Even though I'm a surgeon at heart, I'd love not to do surgery. And so the goal for me is through seeing me, through seeing our physical therapist, we can really come up with a plan. And I usually try that plan first, even if we have to go to surgery. Sometimes it's like, let's just give it a good old college try. Anal Botox lasts for 3 months. Most people don't need anal Botox forever. It's an in-office procedure, no anesthesia needed. It's 4 injections into that third muscle. Think of people that are too loose, people that are in normal pressure range, and people that are too tight. All we're doing is we're bringing the pressure of the rubber band into the normal range. Can you stretch yourself and do that on your own? Yeah, you can. And many people will bring the pressure down. But there are many people that, as they're doing that, they're feeling discomfort, they're having pain, they're not having this positive response. So, what winds up happening is by giving anal Botox, it just decreases the pressure enough
Mm-hmm.
that when they start using the toys, they can have their that maximal
Yeah.
benefit in the space. You're not going to shit on the street. Most people ask me that. Remember, you have those two other muscles that you can contract, you can still hold. Some people complain of a little bit of gas the first week or two, just getting used to the new shitting routine because of
Mm-hmm.
it. But most people do 2 to 3 sessions of the Botox and then they're good. They don't need the
Wow.
Botox again. You may like it because it creates this positive feedback loop of like, fuck, this feels amazing. I'm not having pain. I'm super having amazing pleasure. But the reality is that if we're doing all the right things, using toys, having sex, doing Botox, over time, you've already done what you needed to do. You don't need the Botox anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing stuff. How much of, you've been talking a lot about the physical.
Yeah.
How about the psychological side of things?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's huge. It's huge. I mean, I usually tell people I'm about 60% physical, 40% mental. And the mental piece is not only that neurological connection, but, I mean, there's lots of internal stuff that all of us, especially in the, married to women before, plus or minus kids, now coming out, being, who we are, but then now identifying more on the anal side. And it's interesting, even when you see, a lot of this kind of toxic masculinity approach plays a lot into this, this heteronormative aspect of what we all had gone through translates to, well, I'm not going to be submissive and like, fuck, someone's going to get behind me and fuck the shit out of me. Bro, I'm not that person. So I think a lot of it is more self exploration first. I think a lot of people go directly to partners and have bad situations that just translate to, fuck it, I'm never going to do this. I don't want to do this. But if you start to explore yourself and go super slow and start to understand your anatomy and where's the prostate and how do I stimulate things to get a really great prostate orgasm or heightened and it could just be even analingus or external play. It could be just gentle stimulation. It doesn't need to be full penetration
yeah.
to allow you to improve not only your orgasm, but as you're going through it, others. But I think the key first is you got to work through your own shit, literally.
Yes.
and
Well, there's
and I think that that's an important step to
Yeah.
first figure out, one, is this something that you want to do?
Right.
And if it is, then what's the right cadence and the right approach to make it so that everybody benefits?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a healthy state of mind absolutely will help because with the shame that comes, with our listeners coming out later in life or living a closeted life, that also adds to, yes, the anxiety and the tension with that. So, that's some good information. Thank you.
No, 100%. And I think, when we talk about shit, one of the things that people always talk about is, am I going to shit on somebody or is it going to be dirty, right? I mean, let's be real. I mean, I've been doing this business for quite a while, right? That's a lot of people's concern. Now, I always talk about gut health before butt health. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about like, how do I eat the right diet? How do I supplement with fiber or pre and probiotics? how do I get my shit like my dog Oreo? Now, Oreo, he poops. He doesn't need to even wipe. It comes out appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, why can't my shits be like that? Well, they can be. And it's a lot of, understanding the Western diet and your diet and what supplementation needs to be. But I usually recommend not doing any douching with the glass dilators. So when you're using toys, don't clean yourself.
Mm.
I want you to see that 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, you will be clean for run of the mill anal sex just by pooping your normal way. Prove it to yourself. Now, we're not talking about fisting. We're not talking about deep play. We're not talking about people that have IBS and Crohn's and irritable bowel and inflammatory bowel. Totally different. And I could spend a whole hour talking about that. But I think run of the mill anal. And now I think this is important for us, for people to understand just the shitting mechanism. So people understand the concept. So remember, where toys, where cock goes is just in the rectum. The rectum is what's called a conduit. So what happens? The stool is higher. Let's say I'm laying down, I'm in bed, I'm waking up in the morning. Well, why do we shit mostly in the morning? Well, let's talk about it. What happens when you stand up in the morning? First of all night while you're sleeping, your body is digesting and taking nutrients and creating the bowel movement, right? Okay, that's that. The second you stand up, you change your pelvic angle.
Mm.
So the stool that was up higher in that sigmoid colon starts to move into the rectum. Now, we are brushing our teeth. My kids are fucking bothering me. We're doing a million things, and you now sense that I need to go poop. Why does that happen? Well, what happens is that stool hits that internal sphincter. Remember that third muscle? It hits that. When it hits that, it relaxes that internal sphincter. You feel that, and you're squeezing the other two because you're not at the toilet bowl. But now, when you sit down at the toilet bowl and you relax those voluntary muscles that we spoke about, your bowel movement
Mm-hmm.
happens. Now,
And add a cup of
that it,
coffee on top of
exactly,
that.
coffee, a cigarette, etc. That happens. But remember, that mechanism is called a top-down approach, which is the inside sphincter relaxing and then the rest. Okay, but now think about sex. Anal sex is the other way. It's hitting the skin first and hitting the two muscles before it hits that third muscle. So that's where I want people to understand, when we're doing the small toy, why I don't want you to start with bigger toys, why I want you to have foreplay and really get into the groove, is because when you are using that small toy, the goal is to hit that third muscle and create the reflex. Not that
Mm-hmm.
you feel you need to shit, but the relaxation approach. So, what I want people to understand is that if you have a normal bowel routine, that rectum is only filled up with shit when you have to poop. Does that make sense?
It does. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Anything.
Not that this has ever happened to me,
Sure.
but the the feeling when you're having anal sex,
Yes.
like you're going to shit.
Yes, it can happen. Now, there are receptors that are, oh fuck, I feel like I need to shit. There are pain receptors of, oh my God, this is painful. And then there are pleasure receptors. The issue is you have to figure out what your body makeup is. Now, over time, you can deaden the sensation of, oh my God, I need to shit. You can deaden the pain receptors in a way that now brings pleasure out. But you may need appropriate anal dilation. We may need Botox. We may need physical therapy. Like, we may need certain things to get you, because many of the, oh, I feel like I need to shit, is my muscles a little bit too tight. And because of that, that sensation is lingering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the dilating, the Botox, all those things play into it. But it's trainable for sure.
Mm. So when you're cleaning out before having sex, how many hours ahead of time should you clean out? And what amount of water should you be using?
Yeah. So it's so multifactorial because of what I would love is when you're doing the toys to really understand, like, because there's plenty of people out there that don't need to douche. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I have a douche company. It's called Future Method, but I'd love for you not to douche. My company was more of how do I meet people where they are? Because people are going to douche.
Mhm.
And the reality is most people are over douching. So the goal is, well, why is overdosing a problem? Well, when you look at STD risk, when you look at HIV risk, when you look at anal injuries, those tears, those dilated veins, those hemorrhoids, it's all associated with douching. And I'll
Okay.
talk about that. What happens is the douching practice that most people are doing, it fucks with the microbiome. So there's good bacteria, there's bad bacteria, but they're in equilibrium. If you or I are in LA or New York and we go on the street and we swab 20 random people, I can tell you through studying their microbiome who takes it up the ass. There
Oh.
is this overgrowth of a specific bacteria called Prevotella, and that happens from just run of the mill sex, douching, lubricants. The bacteria changes. Now, when you look at douching, most people either use water or they use enemas. And the reality is, both of them are quite toxic to
Mm.
that lining inside. There's a spectrum. One is called hypoosmolar, the other is hyperosmolar. So water is that hypo. And what it does is when you're irrigating inside, you're actually drawing the nutrients out of the colon, out of the rectum that are there to protect us. And it basically strips the lining. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing on the other side, which is the hyperosmolar. So when I started Future Method, I said, well, why don't we just come up with a solution that's not toxic? And so through Hopkins and scientists and this and that, we came up with an appropriate crystal light for your ass. It's
Okay.
basically it's basically a powder that you put to every 4 ounces of water, drinkable water. Okay. And what happens is it neutralizes it. It makes it pH balanced in that spectrum of hypo and hyper. It puts it into the range. So it cleans you, it allows you to feel silky and sexy and pre-lubricates you, but it doesn't fuck with the microbiome in that space. And our bulbs are smaller on purpose because most people are over douching. Big bulbs, shower hoses. What they're doing is they're creating a bowel movement. And I don't want that. So think about what we spoke about. When they're over douching, those big bulbs or shower hoses, they're going up into that colon. We don't want that. We want you to just be in the rectum for
Mm-hmm.
run-of-the-mill anal sex. What's going in is coming out, not what's going up higher. And that's why a lot of people will say, "Oh, I ask how many times do you douche?" They're like, "Well, it depends. Maybe 4, 5, 6 times." And I say, "Okay, well, tell me." They're like, "Oh, I do one or twice and I'm clean, but I want to just check again." And then when I do the third or the fourth time, I'm now dirty. Well, because you've elicited a bowel
Because you,
movement.
uh-huh,
Exactly,
uh-huh.
because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're
yeah,
actually
yeah.
going too much and too far. So I usually tell people if I am going to douche, I will, before I douche, I will use my toys as a litmus test. How dirty am I? It'll pre-lubricate you, it'll open you up, it'll set the stage for appropriate anal sex anyway. But you're able to now look and be like, wow, I'm actually clean. Great. Then either douche not at all, or once or twice and minimize that, or try to cut down your douching
Mm-hmm.
routine.
Mm-hmm.
If I go in and I'm dirtier, I say, okay, let me douche 1 to 2 times and then let me redo the toy. Once it'll get rid of any extra liquid that you have. It'll show you that you're clean or not, and then like it'll allow you to really understand your own body, because if you're douching 5, 6, 7 times, like, dude, maybe it's not the right time for you to be having sex, because at the end of the day, so many people get irritated from douching, and then they go into sex and then they tear or they have hemorrhoids or they're like, this fucking thing is not pleasurable. The key is you want to make this routine the least invasive in your world. Because if you have to douche for an hour before sex, you're going to be like, what am I doing? This is like
Right.
not worth it. It's just too much work
Yeah.
to get something done. So I hope that through this, I can educate people to kind of, if I'm douching 5 times, do the toy test and try to do it 4 times. Try to do 3 times. Try to bring things down, because the less we're doing, the better, to allow you the best space. And when you first started, you're like, oh, when should people douche? It's hard to say. You don't, sometimes you don't know when you're gonna bottom. But many people say,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna go out for dinner, but I want to douche beforehand. And you can, but I think it matters maybe not having, Chipotle, or, no offense to Chipotle, or a
Right.
high fatty food.
Yeah.
You want protein, you want a bulking agents, you want fiber, you want leafy greens that kind of slow the gut transit down. Like, there's a lot that goes into that question, but I hope I kind of answered
Yeah.
some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So along those lines, what's your advice, when it comes to diet, fiber supplements? What should we be thinking about on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think, not all fiber is equal. And even our own brands, like, you have to see what works for you. I think you understanding the whole purpose of fiber. Most people will not get enough fiber in their diet. Okay. So the reality is that think of whatever fiber you're using as a bell-shaped curve. I usually tell people start with 2 pills or one powder pack, or a cap full of Metamucil, whatever you want. You'll start with one cap and do it for 3 weeks. Okay. You're not going to be like, oh, I used it one day. Oh, it sucks. It doesn't work. No, no, no. This is something that you have to gradually build into your body. And so let's say I did Metamucil and I did a capful and I put it into a juice or whatever. Great. After 3 weeks, how are my bowel movements? Are they better? If not, add another cap. It's now 2 caps. Remember, it's a bell-shaped curve.
Yeah.
So at some point, you're going to go to the other side, which is, fuck, I'm too constipated. And now you have to figure out where that is. And the problem is that there's no regulation in any of these shit, from fiber to pre and probiotics to even the peptides that many people are doing, all these things. It's so hard, like what one maker versus you, how your body reacts to it. So I usually try to just teach people my methodology of thinking differently and then coming up with where you stand. Now, you want to make sure that you drink a nice amount of water, but you also don't want to take too much water, because a lot of people, especially going to the gym and doing all this, when you take water, if your body doesn't need the water, what's going to happen to it? It's going to push your stool out. It's going to come out more in the stool. So remember, if some people are like, God, no matter how much fiber I'm doing, I'm still having an issue with my bowels being too soft and liquidy, slow down on the water. Because right now, what's happening is you're creating a transit. The water is moving things too fast. The goal is to slow your gut down so that the body can absorb the water, so that now the stool is soft, compact, and easy to maneuver and go. So that's where all that comes into play. I think it's less is more. I think it's don't make too many moves, just make one move at a time so you know what works and what doesn't. I think it's give it time. I would always work on diet first, trying to see if that can really play into this more, and then slowly start to kind of bulk in other
Yeah.
capacities.
Great.
Mm.
So, what other advice, again, kind of thinking about guys coming out saying, hey, I want to explore this side of myself for the first time, but I've never done it. Where should they start?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is what we said, anatomy, understanding who you are and working yourself to figure out which type of hole you have and is this something that you want to further explore. Let's say you've done the anal dilators, one, two, three, four, you feel great, you feel confident, you want to get into sex with a partner. Then it's okay. I usually tell people bring the toys into foreplay with your partner,
Mm,
or use the toys right before you're ready to bottom. I want you to be dilated, I want you to be lubricated, I want you to be raring to go. Okay, now it's, well, what sex positions are appropriate? In the book, we kind of go through peaches, one peach, two peach, three peach, as being one being the beginners and three peaches being the more advanced. So the reality is you want to be on top. The bottom wants to be in control. Now, this is important. I tell people you could be submissive and still be in control. Okay. And
mm-hmm.
that's where what we do is try to empower the bottom. How do you understand, like, hey, doggy style is sexy and I fucking love it, but if someone goes behind me, they're just gonna fuck with my hole, and it's not the right first initial position of entry. So the first is facing your partner. The bottom is literally on top. You're just gonna have them lay down on the bed, get them erect, and you're gonna control their dick just like you would an
Yeah.
anal dilator. And so, remember, good sex takes time. Now I get it. We're in the grinder, we're in the sniffies, we're in the, age of just, fuck me and leave me. I get that. But the reality is, in the beginning of this, I don't want you to do that. I really want you to find a fuck buddy, a partner, a friend, someone that you can really understand, because you're going to learn like what positions feel good for you, what don't, what's the right starting position. How do I learn to say, get the fuck out of me? Like, this is not going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, right? Sometimes you don't know the size of the dick coming through the door. Sometimes the pictures that you're seeing, you're like, wow, is this, I'm going to be able to take that. And then you see it and you're like, I'm not going to be able to take that. So I want you to kind of understand, like, well, what toys can I take? What, on the cone, that for a future method, we have levels that allow you to see girth. Well, what size girth am I dealing with? All these things that, and again, I don't want the listeners to be like, oh, Evan's making it so medical, it's not going to be sexy for me. In the beginning, I need it to be medical because I need you to really understand. And then as you're going through it, you're going to be like, oh shit, my ejaculations are that much heightened. I'm getting so much more orgasm in this space. And then it's like, then after a while, it's just like driving a car or riding a bike. All the things that you and I are talking about now just become so rote in your
Yeah.
routine of having sex that now it's all about the positives.
Yeah. And I love what you said too about like bringing the dilators into your foreplay, right? I mean,
Totally.
that can be part of your connection, with your partner.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's probably not going
Totally.
to happen, on a Sniffies hookup, but but
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, but I have definitely been on a hookup where someone's like, I'm going to do dilating. I'm like, great, go do it.
yeah.
I think the problem is so many people, it's also foreplay too, right? The kissing, the licking, the sucking, all those things give you that relaxation in the space. I'm not a huge fan of fingers. And the reason being is, people have nails, it's multi-jointed. People love to pluck. For some reason, they go in and then they love to kind of like pluck out. And when they do that, you can imagine what happens to the muscle
Yeah.
and the skin, and you can tear. So I usually say if it's an experienced person, some people put on a glove, lots of lube. If you want to do it, just make sure you're keeping your finger just like the dilators. Don't create creases and kinks in the finger. All those things to allow you to get to where you want to be. But I think all these things we speak about will allow people to kind of be like, okay, great. How do I figure out who I am? And how do I figure out how do I get to where I want to be? Because the end game is so amazing, right? And is so intimate and can be create
Yeah.
this relate push a relationship so much into a really great space that I would hate for people to not be able to get there because they
Yeah.
just don't have the knowledge that
Yeah.
we're spilling now.
So one topic you did mention it
Yeah,
earlier, but we didn't really go there. Fisting.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think it's the same, same as what we really spoke about of the fisting community is one of the best communities ever because they're all so supportive. They are very incremental. They are very scientific. They know that you can't go from no fist to a huge fist, right? They understand that less is more and gradual progression. So there are many people in group one that could get towards fisting really quickly. But again, people get hurt when they go from nothing to something big, right? And so that is where communication, lots of lube, really setting the stage. And so when people are doing the glass dilators or the cone, they then phase out into the next level of bigger toys, bigger understanding of getting girth more, all of those things, because the fists are obviously bigger in that capacity. But people think that if you're fisting, that you are like fucking completely gaping and huge and all this. There are definitely people that, but remember, it's the takeoff and the landing. So it's really just the first 5 centimeters, that muscle mechanism, right? Once we get that open, the rectum, you could fit your head in the fucking rectum. I mean, it's a big balloon. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is, and when you look at real fisting, it's basically the wrist that people are truly fully in, right? The fist itself is in that rectum. There are definitely people that are fully going in and out, but many people in the beginning, it's how do you orchestrate your hand in a
Mm-hmm.
way that allows you to get into the space, but the girth of the mechanism is no different than what the size of your wrist is or a big dick
Yeah.
would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think the fisting side is just same as the anal dilators, but how do you understand your limits? How do you put yourself in the right positions? How do you make sure that you have safe words and safe understanding? A lot of people go towards chemsex, which is a whole nother
Yeah.
topic with poppers and
Yeah.
meth and all of that type of stuff to get relaxation. But that's where physical therapy, I do a lot of work in the fisting community with anal Botox to get people further to where they want to
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots that can be done in that space.
That's great.
Wow.
So I just love that the fact that it's about I think part of that too is saying, hey, if that's a road you want to go down,
Yeah.
let's teach people to do it safely, be educated, and not have any shame or feel like
Right.
it's something taboo or you shouldn't do. It's
Yes.
hey,
Yes.
if it's something you want to do, then let's go for it.
I think it's all about risk reduction. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just walk out onto the street of New York and you could get hit by a fucking scaffolding, right? I mean, every day, everything we do has risk associated. So my goal is how do we just reduce that risk as much as possible, right? All the things we spoke about. From muscle, from skin trauma, from shitting on somebody, to fisting, to weird positions and kind of weird locations and not using lube and all these things. And like, that's my job, which is to say, well, how do you want to have sex or how are you engaging? And then talk about all of these things to figure out, well, how do we just reduce the risk.
Yeah.
Because the other side of trauma and injury and all of that leads to a whole host of other complications that none of us want to get to. All we want to do is be able to drop our pants, take dick, and love it and not have issues, right? I mean, that's basically what we want.
Exactly. That is it.
I have a
Absolutely.
question for you about
Yeah,
shaving versus waxing. Is there any concerns that people should be aware of? Is it,
yeah,
just personal preference?
totally. So I think a couple of things. First off is if you want smooth, okay, the best is laser hair removal,
Oh,
bar none.
wow. Okay.
Because when people are waxing or sugaring, and like, look, if you want to go do that, go do it. But what happens is that when the hair follicle grows back, it causes acne, it causes ingrown hairs, it creates an environment. So if we're coming out later, we never shaved or groomed ourselves, but this is what we want to do, the best would be laser hair from the beginning because you're getting rid of the actual follicle and you're not causing issues. I see so many people come to me with pimples and acne and scars from that, and then it just looks shitty. So, look, at the end of the day, if you don't know, then yeah, do the waxing, do the, sugaring and see how you like it. Many people, I usually say, if you're going to trim or groom, do like a number two on the trimmer. Don't go as flat as you want because what happens is just like you or I with the stubble in that space creates a lot of friction. And so many people are wiping or having issues. I'm not a big fan of wet wipes because they cause so much issues with irritation, especially with bottoming. They fuck with the microbiome
Mm.
in that space. So now think about there's moisture, there's irritation, plus you shaved and it's growing back. So it's either for me, I want to be smooth, laser hair, or I don't want to be smooth, but I want to groom, then it's leave a little bit of softer hair in that space so that now you don't have as much friction. Because a lot of people come to me with external irritation from fungal infections, herpes, HPV warts, and a lot of it is what we've just been speaking about.
Wow. And so no dude wipes.
I fucking can't stand dude wipes. All the wipes that are out there right now. Look, it's a
Mm.
billion-dollar business. Kudos to them for doing what they need to. But the reality is, it's a shit on environment. And the
No, yeah.
reality is that so many people have issues with wipes. And I don't know, is it the fabric? Is it moisture? Is it the solution? It's something. Is it just in the gay space? I don't know.
Mm.
I'm obviously seeing a self-select, but if I see 5 new patients a day, 2 to 3 of them come to me with external irritation from wipes or new creams that are
Mm.
specifically for the ass, where people think that they should have moisture in that space. And we sweat, we shit, we do all these things. And the reality is that just that fucks with the microbiome where people have
No.
issues. So that goes to appropriate hygiene. I'm a big fan of nighttime showering, soap and
Mm.
water back there, even finger your hole because inside there's stool that's there. Clean yourself. I'm a big moisturizer fan. Neutrogena, Cetaphil, pick your poison of what you use for your body. Moisturize your hole, but I want you to hair blow it after. Underarms, your balls, your ass. Sleep naked at night. When you're at home, just put on shorts, loose fitting
Yeah.
clothes, no underwear, right? Like those are the things that you want to do. If you're just routine as that, your ass is fine. And then bidets are the best. When people yell at me, they're like, I don't want to fucking give up my wet wipes. It's like bidets are the best. Instead of wiping, it's more padding, those types of things. Nobody teaches us any of this shit. I can't believe I even know this shit. It's like kind of crazy.
Oh, well, great stuff here. Before we wrap up, Evan, I know you've mentioned bespoke surgical, you've mentioned um you know, a lot of the things you tell us. Where can people find you?
Yeah, sure.
Websites, social media?
Yeah, so me, myself, Dr. Evan Goldstein on the social handles. That's more of me, my practices, my two twins, and my crazy partner. So that's that. Bespoke Surgical is on all channels, Instagram handles, and all that stuff, is the surgical practice. But Seriously is the book. So it goes over in depth all the things we spoke about today, plus more. And then Future Method is the product and science of sex company. It's the Future Method on Instagram and futuremethod.com throughout.
Thank you so much. This has been incredibly informative. I know I certainly took a lot from this. I'll be throwing out my dude wipes as soon as we're
Yeah.
finished here. But no, very, very informative, and I think our listeners will get a lot out of this discussion we had with you here. Thank you
Oh,
you
Yeah.
thank
so
you so much for
much.
having
Yeah.
me.
Thank you. Pleasure having you on.